For this morning's commute, I basically have the minivan of e-bikes, the Electric Expedition 2.0. Maybe it's like a hybrid minivan because it's got dual batteries, long range, I don't know. Now, if this bike sounds familiar, it might be because you've seen I already did a video on this, but that time it was in Arizona. I flew down to Electric's headquarters, filmed this bike and one other. I got to ride around for a whole day, but there was 3 things I would have done differently about that video. One, I would have preferred that it wasn't 110 degrees out. Today we're looking at a high of like 70 degrees, so weather should be perfect. 2, it was flat. The only thing this path doesn't have is any hills.
No.
There's a hill. How do I get there? So this morning's ride is going to be exactly the opposite of just flat. It is going to be all uphill. I just didn't get a chance to really ride it up any good steep hills. And then 3, as much as I wish I could bring my motorcycle dyno around with me, that's just not possible. So I'm gonna ride this up to the shop. Once I get there, of course, I'll plug it back in, get it topped off, and then I can do a dyno run and actually tell you exactly how much power this thing has. All I could go by was the specs they listed on their website, other electric bikes I've tested, and just feel. I don't doubt that its peak output is actually over 1,000 watts. Very curious to see what the torque is like, but I'm gonna test it for real. So today I've got, as you might say, the home court advantage. I'm in my own town with my own shop with the bike, and I can give it a nice, proper rundown and give you some of that technical data that I just didn't have the first time. Now, since I'm going in and out of the shade and sun right here, I'll have to apologize. Some of you asked in a prior video about these sunglasses and where I got them. I even said in the video I would give you a link because they're really cool. They have like this little solar panel in them, and they're like what do they call it? Off we go. They're like transition lenses, but because they're electronic, the transition is like instant, so it's really cool. But the company that sent me these to put them in a video emailed me saying, sorry, we had to cancel or postpone our business plans for these glasses. They were gonna go on Kickstarter. So I don't have a link to send you for these. That's a little awkward. I'm sorry, I have a couple pairs. You're gonna see me wear them because I like them, but you can't get them. Now, I didn't film the ride down this hill. It was after work. I was tired. I just didn't turn the camera on. But I did go down the hill. So I can at least tell you about that. And it was very smooth. I felt like the bike was very smooth on my ride to Arizona, so I wasn't expecting anything different. But downhill, I was able to actually like get it up to speed and feel the handling. Down one of these steep hills, I got it to touch like 40 miles an hour, which is moving on a cargo bike, and it was totally fine. The one thing I did do on the way down is tweak these settings. You can change this from a class 2 to a class 3, which is nice. So I did enable that so I can pedal and the motor will assist up to 28. It's kind of hard to actually get up to 28. So right now I'm in pedal assist 5. I'm pedaling, but because this is a torque sensor, more on that in a moment because I have some settings you can tweak there too, but I have to actually put in a lot of effort to get up to 28. And it's kind of hard to do because you start running out of RPM in your pedaling cadence around like 25. So you can get to 28, but it's not easy to do it. And then the throttle will only get you up to 20, no matter how it's programmed. They've done that to try and meet most states' class 2 and 3 laws. We're starting to get a slight grade. I'm pedaling, I'm doing 22 miles an hour, and it feels pretty easy, but I do have to put some effort in. Whew, getting tired. It's getting a little steeper. I'm gonna be maxing out about 20 anyway, so I'm just gonna use the throttle for a moment. But there's two different ways to program the torque sensor. This is a new feature for their 2.0 bikes, which I really like. The setting it's on right now, which I believe is the default, is a little bit easier than your normal torque sensor. So you're putting effort in, but the amount it amplifies your effort is quite high. And then you can do a lower torque setting where it's doing the same thing, but you have to put in more exercise and more effort. Obviously the latter is gonna give you a lot more range, but you're gonna have to work harder. But it works more like some of the traditional torque sensors we see on other bikes. Whereas the way it's set right now for me, it's much easier to pedal than your typical torque sensor bike. But of course you still got the throttle, which is what I'm using right now. That's one of the steeper chunks right there. We slowed down to about 15 miles an hour at the lowest, which is not bad at all. So this thing feels like it's got some good torque. Now I've got like the complete child setup on the back of this bike, so you can put kids in there and they've got bars to hang on to and everything. It's not really suited for a bigger kid or an adult, but I had to try that. Or I should say, my daughter really wanted to try it. She doesn't need all of that. She is too old, too big for that, and she really just can ride her own bike. But I threw her in there anyways yesterday, and we went for a little ride around the neighborhood. So I basically had the experience of what is it like to ride this thing with a small adult in the back. And like any cargo bike, of course, you feel the weight, especially because this thing is so long and she was sitting at the very back. She loves that backrest. Would have handled better if she scooted forward, but whatever. It almost felt like this thing was gonna pull a wheelie with her back there. But they do a fairly good job at keeping the weight low for your passengers. She was comfortable, having a ton of fun. If anything, she said I was going too fast. Surprise. This is kind of a unique suspension fork. They were trying to figure out how to make the fork a little bit tougher, more durable, without it being expensive. So normally you have a preload adjustment on one side of a fork, and then the other side is just an air adjustable system, or maybe it's just a coilover spring with oil in it that has no adjustment. But they did the preload, which kind of adjusts your ride height on both sides. I don't think I've ever seen anybody do that, but it seems like a unique solution to the problem that helps to keep the cost down, but makes it work good for a cargo bike. Because you don't really need anything fancy or adjustable, you just need it to be durable and able to handle some weight. I'm getting my exercise in this morning, as much as I can anyway. I get a little pedaling here and there, but I gotta take some breaks in between so I don't wear myself out. I am headed to the bike shop to do more filming after all. That's another pretty steep section of road, and same thing, just slowed down to about 15 and then picked right back up. I'm definitely thinking somewhere just over 1,000 watts, and just off the top of my head, I'm gonna guess maybe close to 30 pound-feet of torque. Now I say just over 1,000 watts because I'm expecting that's what I'll see on the dyno, but I just realized I'm looking at the screen and it has wattage on the screen. I didn't look at that yet. Because I'm doing a steep uphill at a constant pace right now, I'm seeing it pegged right at 1,305 watts. So I think I was a little on the low side. If anything, we're probably gonna see over 1,200 watts to the rear wheel if this is accurate. And my battery gauge is still reading full bars. It's not even dipping a little bit. I do have the long range dual battery version of the bike. Something to keep in mind with this version of the bike is that's not only going to help your long range, it is going to help you on the hills like this. 2 batteries means they can handle more of a load, your voltage drop is going to be less, and you're going to get slightly more performance. I'm not saying it's going to be a huge difference. I probably wouldn't buy it just for the performance increase because it's marginal. It's more of a little extra benefit you get if you want the long range version of the bike. I do wish I could go more than 20 on just throttle because the power is there, but they're trying to keep this thing road legal everywhere, so I'm just gonna have to live with that. Also has a suspension seat post, which is nice. It's also a very stable bike. I recall riding with no hands on the flat areas before, and yeah, we can still do it on this one. Well, that's like 10 miles of uphill, and my battery gauge has still not budged. And that was a tiny little downhill, and we picked up speed right up to 33 miles an hour just by coasting along. I didn't even try. I think the tires and everything just make it roll so smooth that I think that's helping both the range and it's helping the speed. This is the moment I've been waiting several months for, the Dino Run on the bike. So I've ridden it in Arizona on flatlands. I've now ridden it in Northern California, up hills, but I haven't seen how much power it has, which is normally the first thing I like to do. In this case, it's the last. So I have my guesses. Originally, I was thinking just over 1,000 watts, but then I saw 1,300 watts on the screen. So I bet it's gonna be 12 something. So really gotta guess on the torque. I think it's gonna be close to 30 pound-feet. That's my guess, just based on feel. Can you help me with this kickstand for a second? Yeah, just. Thank you. There we go. Yeah, I got it.
Whenever you're designing your bikes, don't design it with center stand, please.
Well, it's useful for loading.
I mean, I get the use.
You know what would be nice, honestly, on a cargo bike is both.
Yeah, you do.
A center stand for when you're loading, and then just a normal kickstand for when you're just riding by yourself. That would be the best of both worlds. Because there's no reason you couldn't put a normal center stand right up here.
Could you do a kickstand with 1 or 2 options? So one side you can just do by itself.
And the other side, potentially. Let's think about that.
Yeah.
That sounds complicated.
Yeah.
All right, crank it up to 5. Let's get our start. All right, dyno running. That's looking really good. You haven't ridden this at all, have you?
No.
So you can't guess what the power level is, at least not from feel. I'm just curious as to what you think this cargo bike has that's advertised as a 750 watt bike. Do you want another bike to compare to that is a cargo bike? Lake stepped aside to help a customer out on a test ride, but here's the official numbers. I'll show them to you and then we'll see what his guess is. 37 pound-feet, way higher than I expected. 1,330 watts. I was thinking maybe it'd do just under that. It did just over that. That is awesome power for a cargo bike. I love it. But as far as anybody knows, legally, that's 750 watts. Let's see where it goes up on the board. I was gonna grab the Abound SR for him as a comparison. This one beats it by about 100 watts and a few pound-feet of torque. So it's gonna go above it. And wow, that really does go up the board far more than I expected. This is interesting. So we have the Walfisk Black Warrior, 35 pound-feet, 1,400 watts. That thing was a fast bike. This is a cargo bike. They're pretty even. This one's quite a bit higher on wattage, and I know it's faster, but surprisingly this beats it on torque. So I'm gonna put it right there, puts it above the Velotric Summit. I was not actually expecting that because that bike feels really powerful. I think this just eases the power on nice and smooth so you don't feel it jump like some of the other bikes do, because like I said, I wasn't expecting that much torque. But that is awesome. That means if you have a big load on this, going up hills is still not gonna be a problem. So it looks like you get a 13 amp hour battery if you go single, two 13 amp hours if you go dual, and if you go for the long range, you get a total of 35 amp hours. So you get two 17.5 amp hour batteries, if I'm doing my math right. That's plenty of range. And yeah, those prices are just really good. It's nice that they give you a lot of options on price depending on how much range you actually need. In my opinion, go for the bigger battery. You're never gonna regret having too much battery. I mentioned the suspension and how it handled really nice. What I didn't mention is that they're using a through axle. So this is a very nice fork setup. This is the production version of this rear grate. When I first did my video, this was actually a 3D printed like prototype piece. The seat is really nice, comfortable. Like I said, backrest on here. This is not like an added accessory. A lot of this extra stuff is just included when you buy the bike, which is really nice. It is very long, which is great if you want to haul lots of stuff. Just be aware that it might be a little hard to get this on some smaller bike racks because of the extra long wheelbase. One thing I don't have, which I kind of wish I did, is there's a really sleek bag that goes in here. I showed that on my other video. I'll throw that up on screen here. Very, very few things I would do to this bike. It is really, really good out of the box. I used to say that the Aventon Abound was my favorite cargo bike, but battery-wise, they don't have a battery option like this. So this one kind of takes the lead a little bit for me because of that. I also like the fact that they let you turn the speed up to 28 miles an hour. Now, I wish I could say this is staying here as a demo bike, but somebody already wanted it and has purchased it. So I'm gonna have to get another one from Lectric. If you are interested in test riding one, please let me know and I will try and push to make that happen. I'm not quite done with Lectric yet. Not that I would ever be done with them per se, but I do have another one of their bikes already here, the X-Peak 2.0. So that one's gonna be going up on the dyno board soon as well. If you wanna see that video or anything else interesting I have coming up, which I got something real interesting to show you. Well, Blake just took off on it. We'll have to see if he comes back. I think he'll come back. He better come back. Oh! Yeah, he's having fun.
Cool.
Did you figure out the windshield wiper?
Yes.
I did, yeah.
Oh, it's cool.
If you want to see more interesting stuff like that, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I'll be back with a full video on that soon too.